The air in Skylight Glen always hummed with a quiet magic, a soft, shimmering resonance born from the countless stars that blanketed its nights. For as long as anyone could remember, the village had been a sanctuary for those who felt the pull of the cosmos, its homes built with wide curved windows that faced the heavens, its central spire a grand observatory where astronomers and dreamers alike charted the constellations. Elara loved the stars more than anything. Not just the brilliant pinpricks of light, but the stories they told, the ancient myths woven into their patterns, the silent, powerful song they sang across the vast velvet darkness. Every night, she would climb to the small circular window in her attic room, a window she'd scrubbed clean 1,000 times until it was as clear as spring water, and lose herself in their luminous dance. Her fingers, nimble from countless hours spent embroidering celestial maps onto silken tapestries, would trace the familiar paths of the Great Bear, the Whispering Maiden, and the elusive Star Serpent. Elara was not like the other children in Skylight Glen. While they chased fireflies in the twilight meadows or spun tales of mischievous forest sprites, Elara preferred the silent company of the night sky. She saw not just light, but emotion in the stars, a joyous twinkle from the Gemini twins, a sorrowful glimmer from the Pleiades, a steady comforting pulse from Polaris, the steadfast North Star. She felt their presence like old friends, familiar and reassuring. But lately something had changed. It started subtly, a barely perceptible shift that only Elara seemed to notice. A star that usually blazed with a fierce sapphire light now seemed a touch paler, a whisper less vibrant. A constellation she knew intimately felt, thinner, its edges blurred, as if a great cosmic hand had smudged a masterpiece. At first, she dismissed it as her imagination, a trick of the eye. But as the weeks turned into months, the change became undeniable. The nights grew darker, not with the rich, comforting darkness of a moonless sky, but with a hollow, empty gloom. The stars, once so numerous they seemed to bleed into one another, now stood out like lonely beacons against an increasingly vast emptiness. Their song, which Elara had always felt resonating deep within her, was fading, replaced by a chilling silence. The people of Skylight Glen, usually so attuned to the celestial ballet, began to notice too, though in a different way. The moon petal flowers, which bloomed only under the purest starlight and provided the village with its soft bioluminescent glow, withered and refused to open. The star weavers who drew intricate patterns of starlight into enchanted threads for warmth and light found their looms empty, their magic faltering. The air grew colder, even in the heart of summer, and a strange melancholy settled over the village, dimming smiles and quietening laughter. "It's the gloom," her grandmother, old Elara May, would sigh, her voice raspy like dry leaves. "The ancient prophecies spoke of it. When the great heart star weeps, the sky grows dark, and the world forgets its light." Elara would listen, her heart heavy. She knew the legend of the great heart star, a myth whispered only by the oldest residents. It was said to be the anchor of all creation, the first star, whose fragmented essence birthed all others. And if it truly wept, then the very fabric of their existence was unraveling. One particularly dark night, so dark that Elara could barely make out the familiar outline of the whispering woods beyond the village, she saw it. A single, magnificent star, usually a brilliant emerald, pulsed weakly, then flickered, and for a terrifying moment, vanished entirely before reappearing, a faint, sickly green. It was the star of Eldoria, a star said to represent hope and enduring life. Its fading was an omen of profound despair. Elara knew then that she could no longer just watch. She had to do something. But what? She was just Elara, a girl who loved stars, not a hero. Driven by a desperate hope, she sought out Master Orion. He was the oldest and wisest star weaver in Skylight Glen. His eyes, though clouded with age, still held a glint of the stars he had studied for over a century. His home, perched at the very top of the Star Weaver's spire, was a chaotic wonderland of ancient scrolls, polished lenses, and suspended globes that pulsed with trapped starlight. The light within them, Elara noticed with a pang, was terribly dim now. She found him hunched over a massive leather-bound tome, its pages brittle with age. Dust mote, usually dancing in shafts of captured starlight, hung motionless in the heavy air. "Master Orion," she began, her voice small and hesitant in the echoing chamber. He looked up slowly, his gaze unfocused for a moment, then sharpened as he recognized her. "Elara, my little star child, what brings you to my dusty perch on such a gloomy night?" His voice was like the rustling of old parchment, dry and soft. "The stars, Master Orion," she said, stepping closer. "They're fading. The gloom, it's getting worse. I saw the star of Eldoria flicker out tonight, just for a moment." Master Orion sighed, a deep, weary sound that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 years. He closed the massive book with a thud that echoed through the room. "Aye, child, I felt it too. The very threads of the cosmos are fraying." He gestured around the room to the darkened globes. "Even these, which once held the essence of 1,000 constellations, are but husks now." "But why? Grandmother speaks of the great heart star weeping. Is it true? Is there anything that can be done?" Elara's voice trembled with a mixture of fear and determination. He pushed himself up from his chair, his joints cracking faintly. He walked to a tall, narrow window, peering out at the sparse, fading lights above. "The legend of the great heart star is more than a legend, Elara. It is the truth. Before time, before the worlds were spun, there was only the great heart star, a jewel of pure starlight, radiating life and magic across the void. It shattered, eons ago, scattering its brilliance to form all the stars we know. But one fragment, the largest, the most potent, was said to have fallen to the world below." Elara listened, captivated. She had heard tales of the Starstone, but always as a distant myth, a fanciful embellishment to the night sky's grandeur. "The heart-shard starstone," Master Orion continued, his voice low and serious, was said to be the key, the anchor that kept the celestial tapestry intact. As long as its light burned brightly on the world, the stars would shine in the heavens. But long, long ago, it was lost. Hidden, stolen, forgotten, no one knows for certain. And without its anchoring light, the stars slowly, imperceptibly, began to dim. Now, after countless ages, that dimming has become the gloom. "So, if we found the heart-shard starstone, we could stop the gloom? We could bring the stars back?" Elara's heart pounded with a sudden, fierce hope. Master Orion turned from the window, his ancient eyes meeting hers. "It is the only hope, child. The prophecies speak of a star child, one whose heart beats in rhythm with the cosmos, who would feel the stars' sorrow most keenly, and who would be guided by their fading light to find the heart-shard." He reached out a gnarled hand and gently touched Elara's cheek. "I believe that star child is you, Elara." Elara felt a thrill of fear, mixed with a strange, exhilarating sense of purpose. "Her? Helen?" A quiet girl from Skylight Glen. "But how?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Where would I even begin to look?" Master Orion smiled faintly. "The stars themselves will guide you, in their own mysterious ways. But I can give you a start." He shuffled over to a dusty, carved wooden chest, its surface inlaid with intricate mother-of-pearl constellations. He opened it, revealing a single item nestled within, a compass, unlike any Elara had ever seen. Its casing was made of a dark, polished wood, almost like petrified starlight, and in its center, instead of a needle, floated a single, tiny, luminous orb that pulsed with a soft, ethereal glow. "This is the Starfinder's compass," Master Orion explained, lifting it carefully. "It does not point north, or south, or east, or west. It points to sources of celestial magic, to places where the remnants of starlight are strong, and it will, I believe, point you towards the heart-shard stone." He placed the compass gently into Elara's outstretched hands. It felt cool and smooth, and the tiny orb within pulsed warmly against her palm. "But be warned, Elara," he continued, his voice grave. "The path to the starstone will not be easy. The world is vast, and many dangers lurk in places untouched by starlight. The gloom not only dims the stars, but it also saps courage, twists paths, and obscures truth. You must be brave, and trust your heart, for it is connected to the stars themselves." He then pulled out a rolled-up piece of ancient parchment, tied with a faded ribbon. It was an old map, its edges frayed, its surface covered in faded script and strange symbols. "This is a copy of an old Skykeeper's chart. It marks locations where celestial magic once pooled. The Starfinder's compass will lead you, but this chart may help you understand the path." He pointed to a faint, almost invisible marking on the map, a symbol resembling a stylized star entwined with a tree. "Your first step, Elara, must be to the Whispering Woods. Deep within there lies the Heartwood Grove, a place where the oldest trees remember the sky before the gloom. It is said a fragment of celestial knowledge resides there, awaiting the Star Child." Elara clutched the compass and the map tight. Her mind reeled with the enormity of the task, the fear of the unknown, but beneath it all, a fierce determination burned. The stars were her friends, her guides, her very breath. She could not let them fade. "I'll go," she said, her voice firm, surprising even herself. "I'll find the heart-shod starstone." Master Orion smiled, a true warm smile that momentarily dispelled some of the gloom in the room. "Then the stars are with you, Elara. Go, and may your journey be filled with light." Leaving Master Orion's spire, Elara felt a peculiar blend of apprehension and exhilaration. The village below was quieter than usual, its streetlights, powered by the now failing starlight, flickering weakly. A cold wind, sharp with the scent of damp earth and dying moon petals, swept through the empty lanes. She gathered her few belongings, a sturdy cloak woven with star patterns by her grandmother, a small satchel filled with dried berries and water, and her most treasured possession, a small, polished piece of obsidian that seemed to absorb and hold residual starlight. She bid a silent farewell to her sleeping grandmother, leaving a note that simply said, "Following the stars." As she stepped out of Skylight Glen, the Starfinder's compass pulsed gently in her hand, its inner orb glowing with a soft, persistent light, pulling her towards the dark, looming expanse of the Whispering Woods. The Whispering Woods were ancient, their gnarled trees reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers, their roots entwined in centuries of earth and forgotten magic. Even on the brightest days, a perpetual twilight reigned beneath their canopy. Tonight, with the gloom deepening, it was almost pitch black, save for the faint, guiding pulse of Elara's compass. The air grew heavy and damp as she ventured deeper, carrying the scent of moss, damp earth, and something else, something subtly sweet and wild. Strange rustlings came from the undergrowth, and the trees themselves seemed to murmur secrets in a language she almost understood. The whispers weren't threatening, but they were unsettling, a constant, low drone that played tricks on her ears. The Starfinder's compass glowed steadily, pulling her along a faint, overgrown path that seemed to materialize only for her. Thorny bushes snagged at her cloak, and twisted roots threatened to trip her, but Elara pressed on, her eyes fixed on the compass's guiding light. She felt a profound sense of isolation, a small, solitary figure swallowed by the vast, mysterious forest. Suddenly, the compass began to pulse more rapidly, its light growing brighter. Elara stopped, listening. The whispers of the woods grew louder, coalescing into a faint, melodic hum. Ahead, through a thick curtain of ancient, ivy-clad trees, she saw a faint, shimmering light. It wasn't the cold, empty light of the fading stars, but a warm, vibrant glow, like captured fireflies. Pushing through the last barrier of leaves, Elara found herself in a small clearing. In its center stood a magnificent tree, larger than any she had ever seen, its bark gnarled and silvered with age, its branches reaching out like welcoming arms. Its leaves, a deep, velvety green, shimmered with a soft internal luminescence, casting gentle shadows across the clearing. This had to be the Heartwood Grove. And nestled amongst its roots, glowing with an even brighter, almost joyous light, was a cluster of flowers. Not the withered moon petals of Skylight Glen, but new, vibrant blossoms, their petals unfurling in spirals of pure starlight. They pulsed with a soft, rhythmic beat, their light reflecting in a tiny, still pool of water at the base of the tree. As Elara stepped closer, drawn by the irresistible beauty of the scene, a small, shimmering creature darted out from behind one of the glowing flowers. It was no bigger than her thumb, its body made of pure, condensed starlight, with delicate gossamer wings that beat too fast to see. It hovered in front of her, its tiny, luminous eyes sparkling with curiosity. It was a starlight sprite, a rare and elusive creature, said to be born from stray moonbeams, and the very essence of ancient star magic. Elara had only ever seen them depicted in old tapestries. The sprite buzzed around her head, a tiny melodious hum accompanying its flight. It darted to the Starfinder's compass in her hand, touching it with a tiny glowing tendril. The compass pulsed in response, and the sprite let out a sound like tiny bells ringing. Then, to Elara's astonishment, the sprite began to dance. It spun in intricate patterns, weaving loops and figures in the air, each movement leaving a faint, shimmering trail of stardust. It danced towards the base of the heartwood tree, then back to Elara, then towards the pool of water, as if trying to show her something. Elara followed its movements, her eyes wide with wonder. The sprite led her to the edge of the small pool. The water, clear as glass, reflected the glowing flowers and the shimmering leaves of the heartwood tree. But as she leaned closer, she saw something else, something beneath the surface. At the very bottom of the pool, nestled amongst smooth, dark stones, lay a small, crystalline object. It glowed with a soft internal light, a pale, milky blue. It was not as brilliant as the Starfinder's compass, nor as vibrant as the heartwood's leaves, but it held a quiet, steady radiance. The starlight sprite darted to the crystal, hovering over it, its own light intensifying. This, Elara realized, was the fragment of celestial knowledge Master Orion had spoken of. This small, unassuming crystal was her first clue. As she reached into the cool water to retrieve it, the crystal pulsed in response, sending a gentle warmth through her fingertips. The moment her hand closed around it, the crystal's light flared, and a faint, almost silent whisper echoed in her mind, a voice made of starlight and ancient memories. It spoke of a path, a hidden way, and a guardian of twilight. Elara held the glowing crystal, its light casting shifting patterns on her face. The whispering woods seemed to hum in approval, and the starlight sprite danced around her head, a silent cheer. Her journey had truly begun, and the stars, though dim, were already whispering their secrets. The path ahead was still unknown, but with the Starfinder's compass and this new, luminous clue, Elara felt a surge of courage. She looked up at the darkened sky, a silent promise to the fading stars. The crystal pulsed in her hand, warm and alive. It didn't just glow. It seemed to hum with a soft, melodic energy that resonated deep within her. The starlight sprite, usually a shimmering blur, settled on her shoulder, its tiny form now visibly brighter, reflecting the crystal's light. The compass, too, reacted. The needle, which had been spinning erratically, now quivered and pointed directly into the heart of the deepest part of the whispering woods, where the ancient trees grew so thick that even daylight struggled to pierce their canopy. This was not the path she had initially envisioned, which led towards the open plains beyond the forest's edge. This was a deviation, deeper wing. A shiver, not of fear but of profound wonder, traced its way down her spine. The stars, she realized, weren't just fading. They were calling her to forgotten places. With a deep breath, Elara adjusted her satchel and stepped forward. The air grew cooler, heavier, imbued with the scent of damp earth, ancient moss, and something else, a faint, sweet perfume that hinted at hidden magic. The trees here were truly enormous, their trunks wider than her small cottage, their branches weaving a living tapestry against the sliver of sky above. Lichens, soft as velvet, draped from every bough, shimmering with faint bioluminescence in the crystal's glow. The path, if it could be called that, was barely discernible, a faint deer trail winding between roots that looked like sleeping dragons. The crystal in her hand pulsed rhythmically, a steady beacon, its light illuminating delicate fairy rings of phosphorescent mushrooms and the fleeting glint of tiny unseen eyes watching from the shadows. As she delved deeper, the sounds of the outer woods faded, replaced by a profound quiet broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant melodic hoot of an unseen owl. Suddenly the crystal flared brighter, and a soft ethereal melody drifted through the air. From behind a colossal gnarled oak, a creature emerged. It was tall and slender, its skin like bark, its hair a cascade of living leaves. Its eyes, deep pools of emerald light, regarded her with ancient wisdom. This was a sylvan guardian, a protector of the deepest woods, rarely seen by mortals. The starlight sprite zipped excitedly, circling the guardian's head, its tiny light a joyous dance. Child of the fading stars, the guardian's voice was a soft whisper of wind through leaves. You carry the light of a forgotten dawn. The woods speak of your quest. It gestured towards the crystal. That is a seed of Ethel, born from the heart of a dying star. It seeks its brethren, scattered across the realms. Elara felt a rush of understanding. Though the crystal wasn't just a light source, It was a fragment of the very magic she sought to restore. "The path you follow," the guardian continued, its gaze piercing, "leads to the Whisperwind Peaks where the eldest of the Skyweavers slumber. But first, you must pass through the sunken glade, where illusions dance and shadows play tricks on the unwary." It then pointed a leafy finger towards a hidden opening in the roots of its own tree. "Follow the song of the moon-petal moth. It knows the way through the veils." Thanking the guardian, Elara ventured into the hidden passage. It was a tunnel woven from roots, smelling of cool earth and damp stone. Soon, it opened into a clearing bathed in an otherworldly twilight. This was the sunken glade. Instead of a clear sky, a perpetual dusk hung overhead, filtering through an unseen canopy. The ground was soft and marshy, dotted with strange, luminescent flora. Mist swirled perpetually, and the air hummed with a dizzying array of faint, tinkling sounds. The moon-petal moth, which had flown ahead, was a delicate creature with wings like spun moonlight, now fluttering erratically. The crystal dimmed slightly, as if struggling against the ambient magic. Elara felt a strange sense of disorientation, as if her own thoughts were not entirely her own. Whispers began to drift through the mist, soft and enticing. "Go back, little one voice seemed to purr. "The path is too hard." Another, sweeter, beckoned. "Come this way, rest a while. The flowers here are beautiful." Elara gripped the crystal tighter. The compass needle spun wildly again, no longer reliable. She remembered the guardian's words. Illusions dance and shadows play tricks. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the warmth of the crystal, on the steady beat of her own heart. When she opened them, she saw a shimmering path ahead, seemingly made of starlight, leading straight into a patch of particularly dense mist. But the moon-petal moth was fluttering frantically in a different direction, towards a less inviting, darker patch of marsh. Trusting the moth and her own intuition, Elara ignored the tempting illusory path. She took a deep breath, focusing on the sensation of the moss beneath her boots and the subtle scent of the marsh. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, even taking on the voices of loved ones, her grandmother calling her home. Her heart ached, but she pressed on, following the moth. The crystal in her hand began to pulse with a renewed strength, pushing back against the encroaching magic. She realized the illusions fed on doubt and desire. She needed to anchor herself in reality, in her purpose. She thought of the fading stars, of the promise she made. Each step forward felt like a victory against the unseen forces trying to deter her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the mist began to thin. The whispers receded, replaced by the gentle croaking of unseen frogs. The moon-petal moth landed on a large iridescent lily pad in the center of a small clear pond. In the middle of the pond, rising from the water, was a massive ancient tree, its bark smooth and shimmering like mother of pearl. Its branches, draped with glowing moss, reached towards the perpetual twilight. At its base, nestled amongst roots that coiled like sleeping serpents, was a hollow. And within that hollow pulsed another, larger crystal, mirroring the light of Elara's own, but radiating a deeper, calmer energy. This was a moon-petal bloom, the source of the glade's magic, and perhaps the illusions. Elara approached the moon-petal bloom cautiously. Her own crystal vibrated excitedly in her hand, pulling her closer. As she reached out, a soft silvery light enveloped her. She felt a profound sense of peace wash over her, dispelling all lingering confusion and doubt. The bloom seemed to communicate not with words but with feelings and images, painting pictures in her mind, ancient times when the stars shone brightly, the slow fading, the glade protecting a fragment of that light. It showed her that the illusions weren't malicious, but a protective veil, keeping the bloom safe from those who would misuse its power. It was testing her heart, her true intentions. As the connection deepened, a tiny glowing seed detached itself from the moon-petal bloom and floated gently towards Elara. It was translucent, shimmering with faint internal light, and smelled faintly of moon dew. "Take this, child," a soft, resonant voice like the gentle lapping of water echoed in her mind. "It will guide you through the veils of truth and illusion, and protect you from the shadows that seek to cloud your mind." Elara carefully cupped her hands, and the seed settled into her palm, warm and comforting. Her own starfinder's compass, which had been silent, now glowed faintly, and its needle pointed steadily towards the north, towards higher ground. The moon-petal moth, its task complete, fluttered around her head in a joyful dance before disappearing into the fading mist. With the moon-petal seed now safely tucked into a small pouch near her heart, Elara felt a renewed sense of clarity and purpose. The air in the sunken glade began to brighten, the perpetual twilight slowly giving way to a soft, silvery glow, as if the moon itself had risen. The illusions were gone, and the path out was clear. She followed the compass, which now led her upwards, away from the marshy lowlands. The trees grew sparser, their forms more rugged, and the ground began to slope gently upwards. The scent of pine and crisp mountain air replaced the dampness of the glade. She was leaving the whispering woods behind, ascending towards the whisper-wind peaks, a new, daunting landscape awaiting her. As the forest finally thinned and gave way, Elara gasped. Before her stretched a panorama of majestic, jagged peaks, their summits piercing the sky like teeth of an ancient beast. They weren't just gray rock, they shimmered with faint crystalline veins, catching the distant starlight and reflecting it in muted hues of violet and silver. The wind here was different, too. Not just a breeze, but a constant, melodic sigh that seemed to carry whispers from the very stones. This was the Whisper-Wind Peaks, a place of profound silence and ancient magic. The air was thin and cold, biting at her cheeks, but invigorating. Her crystal pulsed with excitement, its light dancing across the craggy faces of the mountains. The path ahead was steep and treacherous, winding along narrow ledges and across fields of scree. There were no marked trails, only faint traces left by hardy mountain goats. Elara relied heavily on her compass and the steady guiding light of her crystal. The starlight sprite zipped ahead, sometimes pausing to point out a more stable foothold or a sheltered crevice. The climb was arduous, testing her stamina and resolve. The cold seeped into her bones, and the wind threatened to dislodge her with every gust. Yet with each upward step, she felt a strange connection to the mountains, as if they were ancient, sleeping giants slowly acknowledging her presence. As she ascended higher, she began to notice subtle signs that she was nearing her destination. Carvings, worn smooth by millennia of wind and ice, appeared on the rock faces, intricate patterns resembling swirling nebulae and constellations. Sometimes she'd find small, iridescent pebbles, humming with faint magic, scattered along the path. These were sky weaver fragments, remnants of their ancient craft. The air grew even colder, but also strangely charged, as if electricity danced on the very edge of perception. She felt a growing sense of anticipation, a feeling that she was on the verge of a profound discovery. Suddenly, a shadow passed overhead. Elara looked up, shielding her eyes against the pale, diffused light. Soaring on the wind currents were magnificent creatures, their bodies streamlined and feathered, their wingspans immense. They were wind riders, noble beasts of the peaks, their calls like the lonely cry of a hawk, yet imbued with a haunting melody. They circled above her, their keen eyes assessing her. The starlight sprite darted nervously, but Elara felt no fear. The crystal in her hand glowed a little brighter, as if greeting them. One of the riders, larger than the others, broke away from its flock and descended, landing gracefully on a nearby outcrop, its emerald eyes fixed on her. The wind rider was breathtaking up close, its feathers shimmering with all the colors of the dawn sky. It tilted its head, and a low, resonant rumble emanated from its chest. This wasn't a growl, but a sound of curiosity, perhaps even recognition. Elara, remembering the Sylvan Guardian's ability to communicate, held out her crystal. The wind rider gently nudged it with its beak, and a spark of light seemed to pass between them. In her mind she heard a flurry of images, soaring through starlit skies, weaving patterns of light, a memory of brighter stars. The wind rider understood. It extended a powerful wing, gesturing towards a higher, almost inaccessible ledge. Understanding its silent invitation, Elara followed the wind rider. It led her along a barely visible path, across a terrifyingly narrow chasm, and finally, to a vast, sheltered ledge high above the world. This was the Sky Weaver's eyrie. It wasn't a cave, but a natural amphitheater of rock, open to the sky, yet protected from the harshest winds. In the center of the eyrie stood a collection of ancient moss-covered monoliths, arranged in a precise, star-like pattern. And amongst them, nestled in hollows and crevices, were more crystals, larger, older, their light muted but still present, pulsating faintly in harmony with her own. As Elara stepped further into the eyrie, the air shimmered, and the faint whispering wind grew stronger, carrying with it a profound sense of ancient sleep. Lying amongst the monoliths, their forms almost indistinguishable from the rock, were beings of immense stature. They were the Skyweavers, their bodies like polished stone, their faces serene and ageless, their limbs intertwined with the crystalline veins of the mountain. They were not dead, but in a deep magical slumber, their breath a gentle, resonant hum that vibrated through the very rock. Their eyes were closed, but Elara felt a gaze, a collective awareness settling upon her. The starlight sprite danced excitedly around the slumbering giants as if trying to wake them. Elara's crystal glowed with an intense, steady light, reflecting in the smooth, stone-like skin of the Skyweavers. She understood now. The Skyweavers were the architects of the stars, the tenders of the cosmic tapestry. Their slumber wasn't a retreat, but a desperate measure. As the stars faded, their connection to the cosmic light grew weaker, and they entered this profound sleep to conserve their remaining energy, to wait for a catalyst, a spark, to reawaken them and rekindle the dying lights. Her crystal, a seed of Athel, was that spark. Elara approached the largest of the Skyweavers, a gentle giant whose chest rose and fell with a slow, rhythmic beat. She placed her crystal carefully on its chest. The light from the seed of Ethel intensified, flowing into the Skyweaver. A faint tremor ran through the stone body, and a soft, sighing sound, like the first breath of spring, emanated from it. Cracks of pure light, like delicate lightning, began to appear on its surface, spreading across its chest and limbs. The other Skyweavers stirred faintly, their slumber becoming less profound. The air in the eyrie crackled with latent power. But the awakening was not immediate. The light from her crystal seemed to be absorbed, but the Skyweaver remained largely asleep. Elara felt a new image forming in her mind, not a direct message, but a puzzle. It showed intricate patterns of starlight, constellations forming and dissolving, and a sense of something missing, a key, die. The Skyweavers needed more than just a spark. They needed a connection to the Yolosti light, a memory of the constellations they had once woven. The crystal alone wasn't enough. It needed direction, a purpose, a wangain. She looked around the eyrie, at the ancient monoliths, at the patterns etched into the rock. There had to be a way to rekindle their memory, to speak their language. She noticed that the monoliths were not just randomly placed. Each had a unique spiraling groove carved into its surface, and at the base of each groove was a small indentation, perfectly sized for a crystal. And between the monoliths, almost invisible against the rock, were faint lines of glowing dust, connecting them in a complex network. The Skyweavers didn't just weave stars. They wove music from the stars, a star song that harmonized the cosmos. To awaken them, she needed to play that song. She looked at her crystal, then at the other, larger crystals embedded in the eyrie. She had to activate them, to re-establish the cosmic symphony. Elara carefully removed her seed of Ethel from the sleeping Skyweaver's chest. She began to move between the monoliths, guided by the faint glowing lines. She placed her crystal into the first indentation. It flared, and a low, resonant hum vibrated through the stone. The glowing dust lines pulsed, carrying the energy to the next monolith. She realized she needed more crystals. The eyrie was filled with them, larger fragments of starlight, some almost completely dull. She carefully gathered them, cleansing them with the light of her own seed of Ethel, and placing them into the indentations, one by one. With each crystal activated, a new note joined the hum, slowly building into a complex ethereal melody, the star song. As the last crystal found its place, and the star song reached its full harmonious crescendo, the entire eyrie glowed with an incandescent light. The Skyweavers stirred more profoundly. Their stone-like skin began to soften, taking on a pearlescent sheen. Their closed eyes fluttered open, revealing depths of swirling starlight. They let out a collective sigh, not of exhaustion but of deep, profound relief. Their slumber was over. One by one they slowly rose, their movements graceful despite their immense size, stretching limbs that had been still for ages. They looked at Elara, not with curiosity, but with ancient gratitude. The largest Skyweaver, the one on whose chest Elara had placed her crystal, knelt before her, its colossal head bowing slightly. Its voice, when it spoke, was not a whisper, but a resonant chord that vibrated through her very soul. "Child of courage, bearer of Ethel's seed," it boomed softly. "You have rekindled our song, awoken our memory. For too long have we slept, as the heart of the cosmos dimmed." It gestured towards the fading stars above. The malady of forgetfulness spreads, consuming the light, erasing the connections. It begins in the veil of whispers, where dreams and reality intertwine, and where the shadow weavers sow discord. Elara listened intently, her heart pounding with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The malady of forgetfulness, that was what was causing the stars to fade. And the shadow weavers were behind it. "The seed of Ethel you carry," another sky weaver added, its voice like the gentle rush of a galaxy, "is a fragment of the first star, the heart of all magic. To stop the malady, you must find the other fragments and unite them at the wellspring of Ethel, before the shadow weavers steal all memory from the cosmos." The first sky weaver then pointed a massive, crystalline finger towards the west. "Your next path lies beyond the Whisperwind peaks, across the shimmering sands to the crystal chasm. There, amidst the singing geysers, dwells the Oracle of Echoes, who can tell you where the next seed of Ethel lies." The sky weavers, now fully awake, began to move around the eyrie, their very presence weaving new patterns of light into the air. They seemed to be restoring their own energy, and in doing so subtly brightening the distant stars. They offered Elara warmth, sustenance, and most importantly, guidance. They gifted her a small, intricately woven cloak, spun from starlight itself, which promised to protect her from the harsh elements of the shimmering sands and to cloak her in subtle magic. The Wind Rider, which had observed the entire reawakening, returned to the eyrie, nuzzling Elara's hand as if in farewell. The starlight sprite, now truly vibrant, zipped around her, ready for the next adventure. With a renewed sense of purpose and the wisdom of the sky weavers guiding her, Elara looked out from the eyrie. The path ahead was vast and daunting, the descent from the Whisperwind peaks, the perilous journey across the shimmering sands, and the unknown depths of the crystal chasm. But she was no longer alone. The seed of Ethel pulsed steadily in her hand. The moon petal seed rested safely near her heart, and the Starfinder's compass now pointed with unwavering certainty towards the west. The stars, though still dim, seemed to twinkle with a tiny hopeful flicker, acknowledging her progress. Her journey to save the cosmic light was far from over, but she was ready. Her journey to save the cosmic light was far from over, but she was ready. Lyra took a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs, carrying the faint, sweet scent of distant pine and something else, something metallic and sharp, like frozen starlight. The Starfinder's compass, nestled in her palm, pulsed with a gentle blue light, its needle now fixed firmly westward, past the shadowed cliffs that marked the edge of the crystal chasm. She looked to the west, where the land stretched out into a vista unlike any she had encountered before. Gone were the shimmering, heat-hazed sands and the razor-sharp crystalline formations. Instead, the horizon was dominated by an impossible forest. Trees, unlike any she had seen in the mortal realm, soared towards the heavens, their trunks so wide they resembled ancient monoliths, their branches interwoven into a vast intricate canopy that seemed to hold the very sky aloft. It wasn't a forest of green and brown, but of deep indigo, shimmering silver and ethereal violet. Each leaf, she imagined, must be a tiny mirror, catching the faint starlight and refracting it into a million glittering facets. This must be the Whispering Star Wooding, a place spoken of in hushed tones by the elder storytellers, a place where the fabric between worlds was thin, and the memories of the stars themselves could be heard in the rustling leaves. As Lyra stepped forward, the ground beneath her feet softened. It was not earth, but a carpet of fine iridescent dust that seemed to absorb her footsteps, leaving no trace. The air grew cooler, carrying a new sound, a soft, constant murmur, like a million distant whispers. It was the trees, she realized, their ancient boughs sighing secrets to the cosmic winds. The faint starlight that filtered through the canopy painted shifting patterns on the forest floor, creating an otherworldly tapestry of light and shadow. The Starfinder's compass hummed gently, guiding her deeper into the starwood. The path, if it could be called one, was not a worn trail but an intuitive flow, following the faint luminescence of moss that clung to the colossal trunks and the occasional glimmer of a star-petal flower, unfurling its delicate translucent petals only in the ambient starlight. Lyra felt a profound sense of peace here, but it was tinged with an underlying melancholy. The cosmic light might still be dim, but here, in this sanctuary of stars, its fading felt more acutely sorrowful, like a beloved melody slowly losing its final notes. She walked for what felt like hours, the starwood unfolding around her in breathtaking beauty. Trees whose bark resembled polished obsidian, embedded with tiny, twinkling geodes, others with branches that glowed with a soft internal light, like veins of liquid starlight. Yet, despite the wonder, she noticed pockets of darkness, places where the luminous moss had faded, where the star-petal flowers had withered, and the whispering of the trees fell silent, replaced by an unsettling hush. It was in these silent clearings that the fading of the cosmic light felt most palpable, a draining of warmth and vibrancy from the very essence of the forest. As Lyra paused in one such dim clearing, her senses suddenly sharpened. A faint rustling, not of leaves, but of something moving swiftly through the undergrowth, caught her attention. A pair of intelligent amber eyes peered at her from behind a colossal, starlight-dusted root. The creature that emerged was breathtaking, a fox, but not of this world. Its fur shimmered with the iridescence of moonlight on snow, its tail a plume of silver mist, and intricate patterns of glowing starlight seemed to dance just beneath its skin. It was a Foxian, a creature of pure magic and celestial grace. The fox regarded her with an intensity that belied its delicate form. It circled her slowly, its movements fluid and silent. Before settling a few paces away, its gaze fixed on the moonpetal seed resting near her heart, then on the seed of Athel in her hand, and finally, on the starfinder's compass. "You carry the echoes of the celestial," a soft, melodious voice whispered, not from the fox's mouth, but seemingly from the very air around them, a chorus of tiny bells and rustling leaves. A moon petal, a seed of Athel, and a compass that remembers the true north of the cosmos. "You are Lyra, the one who walks the path of the dimming stars." Lyra, though startled, felt no fear. The Lumina Fox radiated an ancient wisdom. "Tewa." "Yes," she confirmed, "I am Lyra, and I seek to restore the cosmic light. I believe it is fading here, in the starwood." The Lumina Fox nodded, its starlight markings flaring briefly. "Indeed, Lyra. My name is Nyx, guardian of the starwood's dreams. The cosmic light is more than mere illumination. It is the tapestry of memory, the resonance of hope, the very essence of connection that binds the universe. Here, in the starwood, the light manifests as stardust dreams, the collective memories and aspirations of all who have ever gazed upon the stars, and they are fading." Nyx gestured with a delicate paw towards the dim clearings. "The silence patches, we call them. Places where the stardust dreams have become so weak, the stars above barely remember to shine upon them. Our ancient star trees, which draw sustenance from these dreams, grow weary. The cosmic flow is disrupted, and despair begins to settle like a cold frost." "Can I help?" Lyra asked, her heart aching for the silent patches. Nyx approached, nudging Lyra's hand gently with its nose, its fur surprisingly warm. "You carry the very instruments needed to rekindle the stardust dreams. Each item resonates with a different facet of the fading light. Follow me, Lyra. There are 3 key places in the starwood where the dimming is most profound, and where your unique gifts may yet stir the slumbering memories back to life." Nyx turned, its silver tail a beacon in the soft gloom, and Lyra followed, her resolve strengthened. The Lumina Fox led her deeper, through groves where glowing fungi pulsed like tiny hearts, and over streams whose waters flowed with liquid starlight. Their first destination was a vast, circular clearing, dominated by an ancient star tree unlike any other. Its trunk was as wide as a small cottage, its gnarled branches reaching out like weary arms, but unlike the vibrant trees surrounding it, this one was devoid of light. Its bark was dull, its leaves brittle and gray, and the ground around it was dry and barren. A profound silence hung in the air, a heavy blanket of forgotten dreams. "This is the Heartwood star tree," Nyx whispered, its voice laced with sorrow. "For millennia, it has absorbed the moon's gentle glow, weaving it into the fabric of the stardust dreams, allowing them to soften and settle, to nourish the starwood. But with the cosmic light fading, the moon's essence no longer finds its way here. The memories have become rigid, unable to inspire new growth. Lyra looked at the withered tree, her heart filled with empathy. She felt the moon petal seed pulse gently near her own heart, as if in recognition. "The moon petal seed?" she murmured, drawing it out. It was a pale pearlescent orb, cool to the touch, and now it seemed to glow with a soft, internal luminescence, responding to the need around it. "The moon petal," Nyx confirmed, "is a conduit for the moon's gentle, reflective energy. It does not create light, but helps other light to remember itself. The moon reflects the sun's fire, yes, but it also reflects the quiet wisdom of the stars, absorbing their essence and sending it back, softened, to the world below. Perhaps it can remind the heartwood star tree of its purpose." Lyra approached the ancient tree, feeling its sadness, its deep weariness. She placed the moon petal seed gently against its rough, silent bark. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint silvery sheen spread from the seed, creeping across the bark like dew. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Lyra felt a shift, a tiny tremor in the ancient wood. She closed her eyes, focusing her intent. She imagined the soft glow of the moon, the quiet stories it told to the night sky, the way it mirrored the vastness above and brought its distant wisdom closer. She thought of how the moon comforted, how it illuminated without blinding, how it brought clarity to shadows. She poured her own gentle hope, her own quiet determination, into the moon petal seed. Slowly, tenderly, the silvery sheen intensified. It began to pulse, a soft rhythmic beat, mirroring the beat of her own heart. The moon petal seed seemed to dissolve into pure, liquid moonlight, flowing into the bark, tracing the tree's ancient veins. And then a miracle, a single tiny leaf, high on a gnarled branch, unfurled. It was not gray but a vibrant, luminous silver, shimmering with captured moonlight. Then another, and another, until the entire canopy of the heartwood star tree began to shimmer with a delicate, ethereal glow. The silence in the clearing began to recede, replaced by a soft, almost imperceptible humming. Lyra opened her eyes. The star tree wasn't fully restored, but it was awake. Its leaves were now a multitude of tiny silver mirrors, reflecting the distant starlight, and the ground around it was no longer barren, but dotted with faint, glowing moss, like forgotten constellations. "You have reconnected its memory," Nyx murmured, its amber eyes shining. "The moon petal has reminded it of the moon's calming influence, allowing the stardust dreams to flow gently once more. You have brought back the quiet strength of reflection." Lyra felt a surge of warmth, a quiet triumph. She had truly helped. The moon petal seed, now subtly brighter, returned to its place near her heart, its work done for this task. Nyx led her onward, deeper still, to a part of the starwood that felt profoundly disorienting. The trees here twisted in impossible angles, their branches forming a bewildering maze. The starlight, instead of filtering gently, seemed to shift and warp, creating illusions. Paths appeared and vanished, sounds echoed strangely, and Lyra felt a growing sense of confusion, as if her own internal compass was spinning wildly. "This is the labyrinth of whispers," Nyx explained, its voice now a little strained, its starlight markings flickering nervously. "Here, the stardust streams have become fragmented, broken. They are not merely dim, but distorted, creating illusions that trap travelers, making them lose their way, not just physically, but within their own minds. The true path to the cosmic light is obscured by doubt and fear." Lyra felt the pull of disorientation herself. She saw glimpses of other places, the shimmering sands, the treacherous peaks, and heard whispers that seemed to question her purpose, her strength. "Are you truly capable? This task is too great. You are lost. Sin, how? Tanlinum dentense." She clutched the Starfinder's compass. It was spinning wildly, its needle unable to find true north amidst the confusion. "It's lost its way too," she whispered, a flicker of despair touching her. "Not entirely, Lyra," Nyx corrected gently. "Its purpose is to find the true north, the unwavering direction. But here, the very concept of true is under assault. You must not merely follow its guidance, but understand why it points where it does. You must use it to cut through the illusions, to find the core truth." Lyra took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The whispers grew louder, the illusions more convincing. A beautiful glowing path appeared before her, beckoning, but something felt wrong about it. She closed her eyes, focusing on the solid weight of the compass in her hand. She opened her eyes, not looking at the paths, but at the compass itself. Its needle was still spinning, but she noticed a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor, a faint pull towards what seemed to be a solid, unremarkable tree trunk, not the alluring, glowing path. The compass was trying to tell her something. It wasn't about seeing the path, but knowing it. She held the compass out, focusing her will. "Show me the truth," she whispered, her voice firm. "Show me the path that is, not the path that seems to be." As she spoke, the compass's blue light intensified, pulsing with a steady rhythm. The spinning needle slowed, then with a resolute clicking, it fixed itself. Not towards the glowing path, but directly towards the unassuming tree trunk. And as it pointed, the blue light of the compass seemed to lance forward, a thin beam cutting through the air. Where the beam touched the glowing illusory path, the light flickered and died, revealing only empty space. Where it touched the unremarkable tree, the bark shimmered, and a faint, almost invisible doorway, woven from strands of pure starlight, materialized. The whispers faded, replaced by the soft hum of cosmic truth. Lyra stepped forward, trusting the compass, trusting her gut feeling. The illusions melted away as she walked, revealing a clear, albeit narrow, path. The Starfinder's compass, now steady in her hand, pulsed calmly, its work here done. She had learned not just to follow the compass, but to interpret its unwavering truth amidst deception, to trust the quiet certainty over the loud illusion. She had found the true path through the labyrinth of whispers, guided by the compass's unerring honesty and her own growing inner clarity. "You have restored the clarity of direction," Nyx praised, its starlight markings glowing brightly. "You showed the labyrinth that truth, however plain, is stronger than any illusion. The stardust dreams here will now find their way again, flowing clearly, unburdened by doubt." Lyra felt the Starfinder's compass settle comfortably in her hand, a trusted friend. Her journey had taught her that tools were not just objects, but extensions of her own will and understanding. Their final destination was the deepest, most sorrowful part of the starwood. Here, the very air felt heavy with resignation. The trees were not withered or distorted, but simply still. Their starlight had dimmed to almost nothing, their whispers were silent, and Lyra felt a profound sense of hopelessness emanating from them, a feeling that nothing mattered, that all effort was in vain. It was the most dangerous silence patch of all, for it threatened to extinguish not just light, but the will to seek it. "This is the Grove of Lost Stars," Nyx explained, its voice barely a whisper, its luminous fur seeming duller here. "The stardust dreams here have not just faded or become confused, they have simply given up. They believe the cosmic light is gone forever, and with it, all purpose. It is the deepest wound, Lyra, for hope is the bedrock of all creation." Lyra looked at the desolate grove, her heart heavy. She felt the subtle tremor of the seed of Athel in her hand, a warmth against her palm. This was the seed of life, the spark of creation itself. But how could a seed, a symbol of growth, mend a broken spirit, rekindle a lost hope? "The seed of Ethel," Nyx said, as if reading her thoughts, "is not merely a seed of life, but a seed of willing. It holds the essence of primeval creation, the unwavering intent that brought forth all things from the void. It is the promise that even in the deepest darkness, a new beginning is possible. It cannot be planted in the earth here, Lyra, for the earth itself has..." Lyra understood. This wasn't about physical action, but about spiritual resonance. She sat down in the center of the silent grove, cradling the seed of Athel. It pulsed with a gentle warmth, a faint, golden light emanating from within its polished shell. She looked at the still, silent trees and felt their deep, weary despair. She closed her eyes, holding the seed of Ethel to her own heart. She thought of her journey, of the challenges overcome, of the tiny flickers of hope that had guided her. She thought of the cosmic light, not as a distant goal, but as an inherent part of everything, a spark of wonder that existed even in the smallest leaf, the faintest star. She thought of courage, of perseverance, of the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. She poured all of her own burgeoning hope, her own unwavering will to save the cosmic light, into the seed of Athel. She imagined the seed absorbing her intent, amplifying it, becoming a conduit for the universal force of creation itself. She wasn't just giving hope, she was reminding the grove of the infinite, inherent capacity for hope that existed within all things. As she focused, the seed of Athel began to glow more brightly, a pure golden light that radiated outwards, not forcefully, but gently, like a sunrise. The light spread through the grove, touching the silent trees. It didn't immediately make them glow or whisper, but Lyra felt a subtle shift. The heavy cloak of despair began to lift, replaced by a delicate, almost imperceptible stirring, like a sleeper beginning to dream. She kept her eyes closed, feeling the deep connection. The seed of Athel was now a miniature sun in her hand, its warmth spreading through the grove of lost stars. She heard a faint sound, not a whisper yet, but a soft, collective sigh, as if the trees were remembering to breathe. She felt a tiny spark of curiosity, a flicker of wonder, stirring within the ancient wood. Finally, Lyra opened her eyes. The golden light of the seed of Athel receded, settling back into its polished shell, now glowing with a vibrant internal luminescence, a testament to its renewed power. The grove of lost stars was still dim, but it was no longer heavy with despair. A faint, almost imperceptible hum filled the air, the nascent sound of stardust dreams beginning to stir, to awaken, to remember the possibility of purpose. The trees, though still silent, no longer radiated resignation, but a quiet, fragile hope. "You have reawakened the will to hope," Nyx said, its voice filled with reverence, its starlight markings shining with renewed brilliance. The seed of Athel has reminded them that life, and purpose, will always find a way to begin anew, no matter the darkness. You have planted the seed of resilience. Lyra rose, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment and a deeper understanding of the cosmic light. It was not just light, but memory, truth, and hope. She had helped the starwood remember how to reflect, how to discern, and how to hope. The whispers returned to the trees, a soft, harmonious chorus of renewed stardust dreams. The luminous moss glowed brighter, the star-petal flowers bloomed with a softer radiance, and the very air thrummed with a gentle, vibrant energy. Nyx approached her, nuzzling her hand. "The starwood thanks you, Lyra. Your journey has brought warmth and light back to our ancient dreams. The cosmic light here will mend, and for a time, the stars will remember to sing through our leaves." Lyra felt the starfinder's compass in her hand begin to pulse again, its blue light steady and strong. It was no longer pointing west, but now, with unwavering certainty, it pointed directly upwards, towards a specific point in the vast stardusted canopy. "It points to the Aeoni celestial spiring," Nyx explained, following Lyra's gaze. "It is the heart of the starwood's connection to the greater cosmos, a place where the cosmic light gathers, a nexus of celestial energy. It is from there that the light truly emanates, and it is there, perhaps, that you will find the next clue to its fading source. The spire is not a physical place, Lyra, but a point of pure energy, a doorway to the heavens themselves. It is where the truly ancient stardust dreams reside, the ones that have ground weir." Lyra looked up, her heart filled with a mixture of awe and determination. The next step was not across land, but into the very fabric of the cosmos. The starwood had been a place of healing, of remembering, of rekindling inner strengths. Now, she was ready to face the source. She thanked Nyx, who dipped its head in a gesture of profound gratitude. With a final glance at the rejuvenated starwood, Lyra followed the unwavering beam of her compass upwards, towards the ethereal glow of the celestial spire. Her journey to save the cosmic light was far from over, but with the wisdom of the starwood and the aid of her companions, she felt ready for whatever celestial challenges lay ahead. The ascent to the celestial spire was unlike any journey Lyra had ever known. The air grew thin and sweet, tasting of moon-petal dew and distant nebulae. She floated upwards, guided by the compass, over bridges spun from solidified starlight and platforms of drifting iridescent cloud. Whispers of forgotten constellations brushed past her, like ancient lullabies carried on cosmic winds. Nyx, ever present, flew silently beside her, its fur shimmering with renewed vitality, a tiny beacon in the vastness. Finally, the spire itself came into view. It wasn't a tower of stone, but a colossal, crystalline bloom, its petals unfurling towards the heart of the cosmos. Within its translucent walls, Lyra could see the source of the cosmic light, a shimmering, colossal heart of pure starlight, pulsing faintly, struggling to maintain its glow. And tending to it, a being of such ancient ethereal beauty that Lyra gasped. It was the Lumen Weaver, a creature woven from pure light, its form a cascade of shimmering stardust and cosmic dust. Its movements were slow, burdened with unimaginable age, its own inner light flickering precariously, like a candle in a draught. Lyra understood then. The cosmic light wasn't being stolen or corrupted. Its guardian, the Weaver, was simply exhausted. Eons of tending, of weaving the starlight into the fabric of the universe, had drained its essence. Its fading strength meant the universe's light was dimming too. Lyra approached cautiously, her own heart aflutter with empathy. She remembered the starwood's wisdom, the rediscovery of inner strength, the rekindling of her own spark. She placed a hand gently on the spire's crystalline surface. A warmth spread through her, echoing the vibrant energy of the rejuvenated starwood within her. Closing her eyes, Lyra focused, not on taking but on giving. She let her own rekindled inner light, imbued with the ancient wisdom and vitality of the starwood, flow outwards. A soft verdant glow emanated from Lyra's palm, a wave of gentle, life-giving magic. It seeped into the spire, through the crystalline petals, and flowed directly towards the weary Lumen Weaver. As the light touched the ancient being, a tremor passed through its luminous form. Its flickering light steadied, then brightened, drawing strength from Lyra's selfless offering. The Weaver's celestial eyes, once dim, now sparkled with renewed life. With a deep, resonating hum that vibrated through Lyra's very soul, the Lumen Weaver stretched, its form expanding, its light blazing with its original magnificent brilliance. And as the Weaver rejuvenated, so too did the cosmic heart of starlight within the spire. A magnificent cascade of light erupted, not just a beam, but a joyous explosion of shimmering stardust that streamed outwards, touching every corner of the universe. Lyra watched in awe as distant galaxies sparkled anew, nebulous glowed with vibrant hues, and countless stars, once dulled, now shone with dazzling clarity. The universe was alight once more. With her task complete, Lyra felt a profound sense of peace. The Lumen Weaver offered a silent, grateful bow, its radiant presence filling the spire. Lyra descended, Nyx circling her head in celebration, back into a universe reborn with light. She returned to her own world, now bathed in the true, undimmed glow of a million stars. The starwood pulsed with quiet contentment. Lyra knew that the greatest light wasn't just out there, but also within, waiting to be kindled, ready to share its warmth with the world. She nestled into her bed, the soft cosmic light filtering through her window, a gentle reminder that even the smallest heart can illuminate the vastest darkness. And with a contented sigh, Lyra drifted into a sleep as peaceful and bright as the stars themselves.